Frank Sepe, Robert Wilkins here with our podcast, Fit to Serve, and we are here with IFBB Pro, U.S. Army veteran, Jeremy Potvin. Jeremy, thank you so much for being with us. Obviously, when we do our podcast and people have a military background, Rob wants to know all about that. I do too, but Rob, take it away.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Jeremy, thank you for joining us. As a fellow veteran, I appreciate you and your service. Thank you so much for
thank
that.
you for your service.
First of all, tell us all about where did you come from? Where did you start? Were you from a military family? Were you an athlete growing up? So that would be our basic intro there. A little bit about yourself and where you're from.
Yeah, well, again, my name is Jeremy Potvin, U.S. Army veteran. I did grow up in a military family. My dad was Special Forces. He retired, did his full, 20 plus years. He actually got out for a little bit and re-enlisted after 9/11. Awesome. So yeah, I come from a military family, grew up everywhere, born in Washington State, grew up in Japan, went back to Washington, then to Texas, and I've been moving around because of where I was stationed. I actually ended up stationed back in Washington State, which is kind of cool to spend my time there in the service, where I grew up. Did a year overseas in Iraq in 2009 to 2010. But yeah, I mean, nothing better than serving your country, in my opinion.
Jeremy, obviously, thank you for your service. When you're sitting around watching with your family movies like Commando, The Expendables, everything else, with everything going on, or this guy's, Steven Seagal's Special Forces, like take me through that. Because it's like professional football players watching, I watch football with a lot of professional football players, and they're just like, very animated and very like, that shouldn't happen, or this or that. Like, take me through.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. You'll be watching a military movie, and these guys apparently they have like 100, 200 round magazines, things of that sort. I think that's the biggest thing that you're going to see. Is like, where's the reload, or why is the uniform so jacked up? But I remember watching, I think Active Valor did a pretty good job. I thought that was a pretty good, a good way they did that.
What about True Lies? That was a great one, right?
What's that?
For the plane for True Lies, when he was on the bridge and he took over the plane. That's all.
Oh yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I remember that one. It was at Jamie Lee.
That's right.
There's nothing better than the early Arnold Commando movies.
Yeah.
Happened to Solly. I let him go.
That's right.
So what was it about the military that obviously your father and your grandfather were in it? Was it like, what did you want to accomplish in the military, and what were their highest rankings?
So my dad, he was an E7. He didn't want to, I think when you're special operations, when you go up to E8, it's more of I want to say a leadership role or a commanding role. So he stayed at E7 while he was there. My grandfather, I'm not too sure, but he did do a little bit of, he did serve during World War II. I can't remember where he was stationed. I know he did some time in India, but I'm not too sure where else. As far as me, I was an E5 when I got out. My reason for serving was just, I consider myself a very patriotic person. I love my country. I love everything that I've been able to do because of the country I live in. And I just kind of wanted to, I guess for me, I always feel this sense of serving. It is like my purpose. So that's why I wanted to join the military. I feel like if you're joining the military for the wrong reasons, you're going to be in for a world of hurt, especially during times of war. Because, there were a lot of people that I met while I was in that were signing up for help with college, things of that sort. And I'm just like, you're going to have a tough time when you go to Afghanistan or Iraq.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that was my thing at the end of the day, was just serving my country.
And so growing up, were you athletic? Did you play sports? And if you did play sports, what sports did you play?
So I was moderately athletic. I was a very small kid, so I stayed away from like big contact sports. I played soccer. I did a little bit of football, but again, being a small kid, I just didn't think anything was going to come from that. Um, but yeah, soccer I enjoyed. Strangely enough, I hate it now, but I enjoyed running back then. Uh, yeah, you don't.
Not
As
in
soon
your,
as I joined the military, I was like, I don't want to run anymore.
that's not in your prep, right?
Yeah, but yeah, I wouldn't say I was like super athletic or anything like special about me. Like I said, I mean, I graduated high school. I was 116 pounds, so very small kid.
I
A
read
little
that
skater kid in high school too. So
I read that you started working out in Iraq. Is that true?
yeah, yeah, basically I started taking interest like right before I deployed in bench pressing and just kind of
Mhm.
bodybuilding and things of that sort. But while I was in Iraq, that's when I really
Mm.
discovered bodybuilding. Started looking at the magazines, at the little shopettes of Jay Cutler, Branch Warren, and I
Muscle
just
pack.
yeah, exactly. That was the thing. The shopettes had nothing but muscle tech, so
Yeah.
Cell Tech was my go-to.
Right.
I remember they had like the Halo Vapor or Nano Vapor or something like
Right.
that. But those were the big supplements that were out when I was getting into it. But it was a great stress reliever. So
And did you notice that your body changed, pretty rapidly compared to some of the other folks that you were lifting with?
yeah, that was one of the reasons why I stuck with it. Was like I said, being a small kid, and when you realize you can actually grow, you don't have to stay
Just
small
grow this way,
forever.
right? You start growing.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I can't grow tall, but I can get wider. But yeah, I mean, I want to say I was about 140 pounds by the time I deployed.
Wow.
Um, by the time I left deployment, I was up to I think 155. And I remember when I saw people in my unit that I hadn't seen for a year, they were like, "Geez, man, like you look like you have the most expensive piss in Iraq right now." It seemed like I'm taking steroids and stuff, but
Yeah.
I was natural and I just enjoyed my time in the gym.
What was the inspiration for competing? Because now you're obviously an IFBB pro, you're going into the Olympia. How did you get into go from there to men's physique competition?
Um, so when I got out of the military, a lot of people do struggle with finding work and things of that sort after getting out of the armed forces. I was no different. I felt like I had a good job opportunity, but it was just taking way too long. Originally, I wanted to go border patrol, but that hiring process was, I mean, I was waiting years.
Wow.
So I started doing personal training at a Gold's Gym. And there, one of the trainers, she was actually competing to get her pro card in bikini. And she was like, man, there's this new division that I think you'd be great for. It's called men's physique. And, I looked into it, saw guys like Mark Anthony, Jason Poston, Sadiq, all getting started. I was like, let me try it. Like, I don't want to be bodybuilder big. I like the look that these guys have. Like, can't hurt. And signed up for my first show with another trainer at the gym. He was actually my coach. We kind of just helped each other. And my first show, I think I got fourth. So
Hmm. The since your inception into the into men's physique, the,
mhm.
the criteria has changed. Like from the beginning to now, and like some of these guys,
Yeah,
they look like superheroes. Like they get there's a lot bigger, a lot fuller. You have, and we were talking about this before, an insane shoulder to waist differential. So now the last men's physique Olympia is 6'2", right? So now how do you combat that? Like like it seems like the taller guys now are like you had Raymond Edmonds, you have Aaron Banks, they're all over 6 feet, and then Brandon Hendrickson's probably about what 5'9", 5'10", maybe. I don't know. I don't want to get. I don't want to. I don't know.
yeah.
So how do you? So for guys who aren't that tall who are competing now, what do you do to kind of get noticed and stuff? And like how do you change? How do you prep for that?
I think a lot of it does come down to genetics and that part, just because you have to have something that's going to make you stand out. with men's physique, it's not like you can get up there and necessarily build the biggest muscle.
Right.
You still have to look the part, and looking the part when you're standing next to guys that are 6 foot and, I'm 5'5", it's not easy. You got to either pose big or, like you said, I mean, for me, I was lucky in that I have a very crazy and unique shoulder to waist ratio that helps me stand out. But I mean, obviously, there are things you can do to kind of help with that. Learn how to pose, learn how to build out your physique.
Mhm.
A lot of people, they'll look at like, oh, how can I get wider? Let me build out my lats. Well, what about the teres? Things that are going to help with pushing the lat out. Little things like that, I think, definitely help. It's just you got to be able to differentiate yourself somehow.
Well,
And
history tells us that many shorter competitors have beaten taller bodybuilders and
yeah,
things. So I wouldn't worry about it.
no, I mean, there was a time, I think it was the 2018 Olympia. I was in between Raymond and Akeem at one point, and I was like, man, I was like, really? Like, you got me next to the two tallest guys right now, or in between the two tallest guys. I was just like, dang.
Good
And
for Instagram.
through your,
Yeah.
through your amateur career, when was the point, or when did you start getting the feeling that you could go to the pros and become a world-class athlete?
It was my third show. So my first show I got fourth, and I thought I was kind of done with it at that point. But eventually, my coach convinced me to do one more show. It was the Jay Cutler Baltimore Classic. Was my second show ever, and I actually ended up winning the overall for that show. And that's when people were like, "Man, you have like the craziest waist. You got a big chest." And at the time, I didn't understand like what it meant to have a small waist.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was a good thing. I always thought that was kind of insulting, because as a man, you always want to be bigger, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, I did my second show, got the overall, and then from that point, I decided to do my first national show. That was Junior USA's in 2014, and I got third place. So my first attempt at trying to go pro, I did pretty well, and I think that's when I decided that I would like to try to go for a pro card. However, after that show, I did Team Universe, and I got like third call outs. And I was completely discouraged. I was like, all right, I don't want to compete anymore. Like, I'm good. And again, I was talked into giving it one more shot. And that's when I did the 2014 Nationals in Miami. And I ended up winning my class there and getting my pro card. And, I went pro with a handful of amazing athletes, because we had Andre Ferguson, Logan Franklin,
Wow.
Chase Savoy. There was a handful. It was a pretty awesome class. But yeah, I think my third show is when I decided, I was like, all right, let me put my all into this.
How has being in the military helped your, your psyche or your determination to keep going and to prep and to become a world-class athlete?
Um, I want to say, if you can go through certain things, like, I mean, deployments aren't easy. You're spending a year away from everything that in a hostile environment, and given what your job is, I think when I was overseas, I had 188 out OTW, so out of the wire missions. That's a lot in a year. So I think when you realize that you've gone through all that stuff, like, this stuff, yes, it's very challenging, but at the end of the day, it is all a choice. So it's kind of makes it easier, but it definitely helped with the discipline. And like I said, the mental fortitude. If you can make it through a deployment, I think you can make it through a prep.
Sure. And Jeremy, with all the success that you've had, I would assume, based on your social media following, that from time to time you hear from former military personnel that you serve with, and they're probably really proud of you and saying they remember back when you were first getting started and all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's awesome to I mean, when I got started with all this, I didn't expect anything to really come from it.
Right.
So, to sit back, and I think while you're going through it, you kind of forget what you've accomplished too. I don't really sit there and think about everything I've done. Sometimes my wife has to remind me, is like, hey, you've done a lot of great things. I think it's just kind of keeping that in mind. You can't always, you got to remember the things that you've done that have helped you get to where you are. But yeah, there's no better feeling than being able to hopefully help or guide somebody in the right direction if they have help or questions in regards to this.
How has the like you made it to the pinnacle, to the Olympia stage early on, and now you're going again? And how has the Olympia presentation, stage, the event changed since Dan Solomon and Jake Wood have taken the helm, basically?
I want to say, I think it was 2020 was the first year they did. And that was my last Olympia. And that was crazy. That was an experience, to see everything that went into production, how the stages were set, the venues, the way they did it, like having Caden in the back. It's definitely something special. That's for sure, because I felt like when I first started, I mean, men's physique, for example, we're just doing everything at the expo.
Right.
So, I know over the years, the other classes have been invited to the big stage, but to actually stand on that big stage after, Jake and Dan did their thing, like that was awesome.
That stage was by far the best I've seen in professional bodybuilding, by far.
Yeah.
And Dan and Martine and Caden and Tarek and everybody, they just did a phenomenal job on it. And the El Gindi brothers, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, they've made a name for themselves. They're killing right now.
Yeah, Tamer did an amazing job. Everybody, the whole Wings of Trent team, everybody, they do just the Olympia team, everybody just does a great job with the event. So take us through your prep now. How much time do you have? Expectations?
So we are about 30 days away from Mr. Olympia this year. Expectations, I usually have very high expectations for myself. I don't ever want to show up not ready or not at my best. But over the years, I still feel very confident. I still know that I'm going to do whatever it takes to get to that point. It's just a little bit harder the older you get. So, but it's nothing that I'm, not able to tackle head on. So I still feel very confident. I still feel like I have a look that if I nail my peak, I could be in that top 5 again. It's just, just a matter of doing the work and getting to the stage.
Have fun, right?
And now that in prep mode, how is your fit, like the gym that you train at? How do the other folks who go to the gym, do they know that this is time to leave you alone? Do they still engage with you? Do you work out? Maybe do you have private access where you can work out at night without anyone disturbing you? Or how is that working for you? Because this is your livelihood. This is what you're really putting all into. But others, they're just trying to look good to hang their arm out the door of their car or something. So yeah. So how does that work for you?
I wish I could be more positive in this sense. Unfortunately, I live someplace where the gyms out here aren't the best. So I'm training out of an Anytime Fitness right now. And it has everything I need. It's just, the environment's not exactly what somebody who's getting ready for the Olympia would hope for. It's not super motivating. You just kind of go there and hope nobody's just sitting on a machine. Unfortunately, that happens a lot. When you go to a lot of these smaller, like commercial gyms, you have a lot of people that aren't really focused on staying in shape. They're kind of just there in the gym. I was talking about this earlier on my Instagram stories, but people don't really understand what it takes to get stage ready. It is not an easy thing. It is a lot of suffering. It is a lot of sacrifices, and not one prep is the same. So, you can have a prep where everything goes smoothly and everything's great and you're in high spirits, and you can have another prep where nothing is going right and you are just miserable 24/7. And I've had both, again, like I said, it's gotten a little bit harder the older I've gotten, but I just try to make the best out of everything and try to stay as positive as possible and understand that, I still have a job to do and a goal to accomplish, goal to reach. So, yeah.
I grew up in basically Bev Francis powerhouse gym. So you had the Steve Weinberger. So Dorian Yates trained there every year. You had Bev Francis was competing, Albert Beckles, Sagi, Juan Morel, Akeem, like everybody was there. And it really makes a difference that people are there because they feed off their energy. However, if you're wearing that dark sport sweatshirt, you'd be like, yo, can you get me a dark sport sweatshirt? You have everybody, where'd you get that sweatshirt? Can you get me one? Like, you own the company. Where'd you get that sweatshirt? Let me get one. Can you get one? I'm a size small. How can you bring it? Then you got to run into him every day to see him at the gym. You're like, got my sweatshirt? No, I don't.
No, environment is everything. In my opinion, environment is everything. You can make as long as the gym has a great environment, you can make do with certain equipment or lack of, I should say. But man, I've been spoiled with gyms out in, I've been to Bev Francis. It's amazing. I used to train out in California. I was in Dallas, Houston. So I come here to where, like I said, there's not really any gyms out here, and it's just kind of like, I didn't realize how hard it was going to be.
But Jeremy, the other side of that is, how fortunate your gym is that they have a world-class athlete there. And maybe, you sharing your story with some of the gym members, that would also make them very proud of the gym and what you're doing, because probably a lot of them don't know. They might just see you as this guy who's got not such a great attitude, because they don't understand what you're going through. But if they understood that you're going for a world title, I would assume you would get a lot more support. And again, the gym would be very proud of one of their members is at that elite level.
Oh yeah, no, like the thing here, I get along great with the gym owners and everybody in the gym. I think the majority of the people, since they see me all the time, they know that I am a competitor. Again, like it's always awesome because you get talk to other gym members, and they're sharing their journey with you because of who you are and what you've accomplished. So it's always good to see, like, there's one guy I always run into, and he's been working on losing, I want to say it was like 100 pounds, and he's got 5 more pounds to go or something. That's what he told me today. And I was like, that's awesome. It definitely is great to be a part of a community where people are very supportive of one another.
Yeah, since the inception of Men's Physique, it was great by Jim Mannion to start the men's physique, bring men's physique to NPC, and to start that division, because it's brought so many different people and competitors from where bodybuilders, you didn't have your lawyers and your doctors and your company owners at one time. There was just a small pool of bodybuilders. It's so vast now and so big. Like, a lot of people I know, all ages, are joining, competing in men's physique. What advice would you give someone who wants to compete, who's starting at their first show? What would you tell them? Because like you said, with the military, you don't know what you're getting into, science, paper college. So what would you tell them if they were just getting started in men's physique?
I think the biggest thing is you have to do it for yourself. No other reason. You start throwing in other reasons, it's not going to be the experience that you think it's going to be. If you're doing it for yourself and you have like a set goal in your mind, it's easy, it's enjoyable, it's fun, it's an amazing experience. But the second you start taking all that away and you start doing it for other reasons that aren't for yourself, or that's not going to give you a sort of positive reaction at the end of it, it's going to be a tough time.
Yeah.
Because once again, like, I think everything I've ever been through, even though this all is a choice, it's still one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do, you know, because I feel like almost every day is a constant battle. Um, with yourself, you're like, you're hungry, you're tired, you can't feel your legs sometimes. It's just, it's a lot, sometimes you're just like, dang, like, why am I doing this? And like I said, you gotta do it for yourself.
There's a
Right.
distinct difference between looking good in the gym and doing complete turns with your body under the lights in front of an audience and judges and everything else, and having, whether you're bodybuilding classic or men's physique, judging all those points on your body have to be equally good. And people don't
Mhm.
understand that as a guy in a gym with big arms or a big chest, and he's like, yeah, I can compete, I could win, I can. They have no idea until the reality is that they step on stage.
Yeah.
I'm sure in the gym where they're not educated or whatever about the sport, and they come in like, he's not that good, I could beat him. Like, they stand in front of you and they put their arm out and I stand behind, it's just
Oh, you're always gonna have that. Always gonna have it. You can't get away from that. You gotta have fun with it.
yeah. Well,
Gotta have fun with it.
they can't suck their waist in and broaden their shoulders though, right?
And Jeremy, you were saying about, sometimes going through this and the hardships you have. My assumption is you have a great support system when you mentioned your wife earlier, but could you share how your wife helps you, and also about some of the people who might be supportive of you, like some of the sponsors that you might have who make sure that they provide you all the services and all the support you need to get through this prep?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this is one of those things where, yes, you're doing it by yourself in the sense that you're on stage by yourself, but there's nothing better than having an amazing support system there with you to help you push through if you're having a difficult moment. Or just help take care of like little things when you don't have the energy to do it. My wife's been very understanding of everything that I've had to go through. Even, even this prep, for example, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't like who I am. I don't like the way I'm acting. And my wife was the one who was just like, you got this, like push through, like you got 5 weeks to go. And, without somebody like that, I don't know where I'd be. And of course, I have an amazing support system within my sponsors in Dark Sport and Rule One, and that, it allows for me to live this life, to give this everything I have, and all I can do in return is hope I'm doing the same for them. So it's the support system is everything when it comes to this. My immediate family too. They're very understanding of everything. They've been supportive since day one. My dad. Every time I remember the first Olympia that, or my second Olympia, my wife was saying that he was just kind of like there watching me do like my meet and greets, and she said you can tell he was a little emotional, and stuff like that gets me emotional to know that you're making your parents proud and things of that sort.
Does your dad have a crazy shoulder to waist ratio like you?
Doesn't have a crazy shoulder waist ratio, but I got he's got amazing traps, got amazing chest. When he was younger, he was big into bodybuilding and powerlifting. He was a big fan of Samir because I know that's when he got into it all. But yeah, he was always just big into fitness, loved bodybuilding. So I think for him to be able to see me do this and do it at a high level and be successful at it, I think it's definitely, made him happy.
Well, could you imagine your dad thinking his son is one of the best in the world at what he does? That would make any parent proud.
Yeah, no, like I said, those are ways that I don't think of it. And when it's said out loud, it's just like, yeah, it's true. You'd hope so.
Right.
So we're going to, we want everybody to know before I forget that if they can't make it to the Olympia in Orlando, that they can watch it on pay-per-view at olympiaproductions.com. So if you have any relatives who can't make it, right? Jeremy, give them the olympiaproductions.com.
Olympia Productions, guys. Remember that.
Yeah.
So keep up to date with the Olympia Productions. Keep up to date with the Olympia page on the social media platforms. Keep up to date with the muscle and fitness platforms. That way, you guys can see what's going on and who's sharing what. Super important because I mean, I believe the tickets already sold out for the Olympia.
Most of
Um,
most of them are, and you know, back in the day, you had to wait 3 months for the magazine to come out to look at the pictures and everything for the Olympia. But we have so many great platforms, and you know, with our social media and everything. So Muscle and Fitness, Flex, hers, Olympia, you know, people all over the world. You know, you have Hadi Chopin, um, you know, we have Iran. You have so many different
yeah,
countries that want to watch. You know, Korea, and they just want to watch this event, so they go to OlympiaProductions.com now. So when people say, "Well, you know, I don't know if it's as popular as it used to be," well, it's way more popular. Like,
yeah,
you know, a magazine used to sell 10,000, 20,000 copies. Now you put up a video of some prep and it's like 1.4 million on just that one video, that one athlete. So they don't
yeah,
realize the totality of how many eyes and are actually watching you. You know, like you're in a gym training, but do you realize there's probably hundreds of millions of different, you know, aspects to this that are people are watching it, you know, on different platforms. So
Right. Or thousands of people who served with Jeremy or know of Jeremy, who served in the armed forces, law enforcement folks, first responders who understand that lifestyle will be supporting you. So, you know, we're really looking forward to it. Jeremy, we're sure you're going to do a great job supporting the sport, supporting your family, representing your proud parents and your family members. And as we're about to wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us from your training, from your sponsors? Maybe say something to your wife because she's really important to getting you ready. So,
nice.
yeah. No, I think the biggest thing, guys, is at the end of the day, whatever you're looking to do, you know, make sure it's purpose filled and you're doing it for the right reasons. You know, you're doing it for yourself. Um, you know, like you said, I mean, well, my wife, she's actually sitting in front of me, but I wouldn't be able to do any of this without her. You know, there's so many times where she's been my heart, she's been my brain, she's been everything for me. Yeah, like even when I'm like getting ready for a show, she's the one who's writing everything down while my coach is looking at me because I'm just brain dead. So she's taking all the notes, she's remembering everything I need to do. She's doing the stuff she doesn't want to do. So it's pretty awesome.
People want to see Mrs. Potvin. Where is she?
You want to come say hi?
Hello.
This
Hey,
is the beautiful Miss Courtney Potvin.
hey,
nice.
Courtney, thank you
Very
so
nice
much
to
for
meet
helping him.
What was that?
Thank you so much for helping him prepare. I'm sure he'll get a nice treat after the Olympia, after he wins this title. So be prepared for
Oh, definitely.
your way.
Yeah, it's a team effort. I think if I, you know, if I didn't want him to go far and I didn't want him to be great, I could inhibit that. But ever since I met him, I've just loved kind of watching him do his thing and grow, and it's incredible. So I like to kind of push him in moments that he's kind of ready to stop pushing, and I think that helps offset, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for your support. And all the people who do this kind of sport, they need people like you in their corner. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Team Potvin.
What did you say?
Thank you, Team Potvin.
That's
Amen.
right. Thank you, guys.
Bye. All right. Thank you, Jeremy. Look, and everybody watch the Mr. Olympia. We want all eyes on it. OlympiaProductions.com. It's going to be a phenomenal show if you can't make it down. November 2nd through the 5th, Orlando, Florida. Watch the show, OlympiaProductions.com. Jeremy, thank you so much for taking this time. I will see you at the meet and greet. We will find
Yes,
you
sir.
at Olympia
I'll
Live.
see-
So
I'll
make
see
sure
you
we
there.
find you. As always, Rob, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Jeremy. Again, for all of those who serve our country, this is one of our guys. So let's do all we can to support him and his efforts in the Olympia. So thanks again. Be safe. Frank, we'll see you again soon.